It's NBT Reacts, where you send me examples of horrible, awful, miserable, boring training. I respond in the moment to diagnose what went wrong and how we can improve it for the next time. I'm Adam Spacht, certified no boring trainer. Today's example comes to us as a response to a post I had made on LinkedIn regarding bad training slide deck slides.
And he's building a slide deck to 700.
Training presentations should have a visual element to them, and oftentimes this comes to us in the form of the slide deck presentation, whether that be through PowerPoint, Canva, some other system. Those slides are an important part of the training delivery. They should help you to convey the concepts and the core need-to-know information you're trying to get across, and they're just one more tool in the overall toolbox that trainers have. Unfortunately, they're also the epicenter of where a lot of training sessions go from effective to horrible, awful, miserable, boring training. Let's dive in to the response. I'm going to be reading off my screen. To give you a little bit of context, this was a technical subject being trained by technical people to non-technical people, just to give you a little bit of background. The presenter made a PowerPoint with 1,000,000 slides. Well, let's just stop right there. There's the first mistake right out of the gate. You don't need 1,000,000 slides to convey the core need-to-know topics and points you're trying to make in your session. Having 1,000,000 slides can be very distracting because oftentimes you're just flipping through them very quickly and your audience doesn't even really have time to absorb the information. The other reason they can be bad is it's usually a byproduct of somebody who has either started their planning by opening a slide deck and starting to build slides, or they've tried to pack in too much information. You really want to focus your training session on those core need-to-know topics and need-to-know points. You don't need to teach everything about everything. And while there may be a number of nice-to-know points or information you want to make, push those to other delivery systems. Put them in your handouts, make them self-study that's accessible in a LMS or a library of some sort, but don't use your classroom-based training session to pack in every last little detail. You're going to get low retention and understanding rates. So you don't need to pack in everything in the kitchen sink, and you certainly don't need to document them on a slide.
Holy moly!
The slides were packed with acronyms. Your training slides should be helping to support, reinforce, and augment your training delivery. As I said before, they're just one tool in the toolbox while you're doing activities and exercises and group discussions and all the other bells and whistles of effective training. The slide deck is part of that delivery system. But if you cram it full of acronyms, buzzwords, industry terminology, or things that your audience isn't likely to know, it's going to become distracting very quickly. You know why? Can you take a guess? I'll give you some time. They likely don't know what those words are. So while you're busy trying to explain a concept or transfer information to your audience, they're looking up at the slide trying to figure out what the heck those words mean. So they're not even listening to you. They're not even paying attention. So be very careful about putting buzzwords, jargons, acronyms, industry-specific terminology on your slide deck unless you've taken the time to clearly explain it or make it known. The slides had too many bullets and the wrong font and colors, which made it almost impossible to see. So there we have two mistakes for the price of one. The first mistake, too many bullet points. The slides should be conveying concepts in a simple and easy, digestible way. You need to have some text on there. You need to have some bullet points. But the more you pack in there, like I said, the more distracting it becomes. You certainly don't want to go all the way to wall of text. We all know that's bad. But even just having more than 3-4 bullet points, if you start getting up into 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 bullet points, it's just too much. It's too distracting. The other mistake of this two-mistake combo is using the wrong font and the wrong colors. You want your slides to be visually appealing. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to create the next Mona Lisa, But at the same time, if their color combinations are odd or you've used very strange fonts that are hard to read, your participants are going to be looking at that slide trying to figure out what in the heck's going on here and not listening to you. But you also need to think about your audience. Maybe there's somebody in the audience who has some color blindness issues, and now you've just made it impossible for them to onboard, absorb, take in that information. So you want your font and color choices to be pleasing. And the good news is both PowerPoint and Canva make it super easy to make visually appealing slides these days. As I said, this was a good thing because my eyes were bleeding. And there's the proof in the pudding. While this respondent was just sort of joking, that's very likely what that individual was thinking in the moment, like maybe even to the point of this has given me a headache. And that's the last thing you want for your participants while you're trying to take them on this learning journey. And the slides were all the same. And he read, all caps, them to us. He read, all caps the second time, them aloud. Reading your slides is the quickest way to break the trust with your audience. First off, it's just utterly insulting. It serves no purpose. You're not doing any favors to your audience by reading them the slides. They are capable of reading the slides. If your subject matter is so easy that your participants can merely read the information, instantly understand it, and be able to apply it, why are you investing any time in training at all? Send them an email. Why spend time? Why pull people offline? Why bother them to come to a training session if the material so is easy that you could just read it to them? Now, the bigger picture issue here is the insulting part. Your audience is instantly going to become resistant. They are going to tune out. They are going to zone out, and you are never going to get them back. Now, I'm not suggesting that you might not use the reading the slide technique strategically. For example, you might have a key point that you really want to reinforce. So while your presentations are all extemporaneous and you're not even looking at the slide deck, if you have one key need to know point that you really want to hammer home, you could do something like this. Hey everybody, we're going to move on to this next concept. Now, this next concept is so important and I want to get it right. I'm actually going to read it word for word. That technique can be a great way to really draw attention to that one specific point, but you've got to use it very strategically and you have to use it very sparingly. But as a general practice, back to the main point here, you do not want to read slides to your audience. That is bad. And as the post is sort of winding down here, but you know me, I make hay when the sun shines, and graded many essays during that time. So there's the proof in the pudding. This individual was not paying attention to the instructor, did not take in any of the information, certainly didn't apply any of the information. There was so little value from this session for this individual. They just did something else. They totally did not pay attention. And that's the sort of thing that can happen, certainly when you start reading slides to people. But even just having a poor quality slide deck can cause your participants to mentally zone out. While they may not overtly start doing something else, mentally, they might be thinking about, oh, what's for lunch or any other number of things. So your slide decks should really be one more delivery mechanism in your arsenal of delivery mechanisms. You want them to be visually appealing, to deliver concepts and ideas and reinforce those need-to-know points and topics that you're talking about. And ultimately, you want them to help tell the story of the learning journey you're taking your participants on. So there you have it, the final verdict. That is some horrible, awful, miserable, boring slide decks that augmented a horrible, awful, miserable, boring training session. Total hot garbage. If you like this format, send in examples of your horrible, awful, miserable, boring training sessions to the address on the screen, and I'll respond in the moment to diagnose what went wrong and how we could fix it for next time. You can find my content both on LinkedIn at Adam Spacht or YouTube at No Boring Training. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time here at NBT Reacts.